Hello everyone, I am going to give you guys a view of my hydroponic lettuce grow setup. This is inside the house, living out in Colorado, where we have only about 4 months of the year that we can grow vegetation outside. I set up this hydroponic grow kit, or grow shelving kit you might say, in order to be able to have fresh lettuce all year round. And so I want to give you guys a little bit of a view of how I've set this up. As you can see, I have 3 shelves, and this is a plain old shelving kit. I believe it was like 30 inches in width, and it has an 18-inch clearance from one shelf to the next shelf. And I have a 10-gallon Mr. Stacky tub. It's a black tub. I like the black tubs versus their clear tubs because from what I understand, hydroponic roots do better in a dark environment rather than some of those clear tubs that you'll see people design and sell. The other thing I've discovered when I have used lighter tubs, like white tubs, even though those aren't clear, when the light hits them on the inside, it creates algae, which is a real pain to clean out. So I really like these black 10-gallon Sterilite tubs. And I'm going to give you a little view of how this setup works. I have a 3-inch net pot, and you could probably get by with 2-inch net pots if you're just growing lettuce. But inside each net pot I have Hydrotin clay pellets, and this is called a Rockwall cube. This is like the 1-inch Rockwall cubes. You can get a whole slab of them, about 200 on Amazon, and I just put my little seed in there. This one didn't sprout, so I wanted to use that as an example because I could pull it out and there's no roots. But you know, it basically has a hydrogen around it, and I usually will get these little Rockwall cubes wet and with some water, and then I'll put my seed in, and I'll bring the water level up, you can see on the inside, to where it hits about an 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch up on the bottom. And I set my Rockwall cube so that it goes into the bottom. As you can see, it touches the bottom. So when I put this in my tub and I have that water level up high enough that it hits the bottom of that Rockwall cube, it continues to keep it wet. But I've discovered that when I just set the Rockwall cube, when it's dry, in with the seed, it takes a little bit of time, and sometimes it has a hard time wicking all that water up evenly on the cube. So I usually will put my seed in there and let the seedling sprout right in the trays versus trying to plant the seedlings. I've done that before, where I try to plant a small little seedling and sometimes the stem would get damaged or the root might get damaged. So it's just a lot easier to just seed your trays directly. This one hasn't dropped any roots yet, but typically roots will come right out the bottom. These guys are about 2-3 weeks old, and it usually takes about 2 months, 60 days, for them to come to a full head of lettuce. I'm going to see if I can find some here that have some roots. Just take a peek in here, see if I have any at all that I can show you. If not, I'll show you off my really good plants that are in the upper tray. I started those 3 weeks before these guys. But yeah, there's one little root you can see coming out the bottom on this one. And as you can see, they're very delicate roots. I typically, if I'm going to move some of these, some will grow faster than others, and I typically will take the ones that don't sprout and I'll put them in between the ones that do sprout, so it gives them lots of room to grow. And here is what they look like. 3 weeks later, from that size you saw down there, they'll start to look like nice big heads of lettuce. And I would say in about the next 2 weeks I will be harvesting this crop, because they'll eventually start growing right up into these lights. So you're going to want to harvest them, you know, between this point and the next 2 weeks before they start getting leaf burn when they actually hit the lights. Now let me talk a little bit about what I do, how I manage it as it's growing. As you can see, the ones in the middle don't grow as tall and as fast as the ones right by the lights, and that's because obviously they have less light. So what I typically will do is, as these guys are growing up into the light, this one's almost ready to be cut. He's still not quite touching the light, but he's getting up there. I'll let him get just a little bit bigger. Then I will cut him the ones on the sides out, and then these guys that are in the middle will be able to get more light, and they'll grow up another week or two, and then I'll harvest them. That's typically how I harvest my lettuce. And as far as the lighting goes, I use these little clamp lights that I got over at Walmart, and I put a 100-watt or 75-watt, actually I've been putting 75-watt equivalent daylight spectrum LEDs. And because they're LEDs, they don't get as hot like a regular, you know, non-CFL, like the old bulbs used to. These guys do pretty well. They're pretty cool. So, I mean, if they do get into the lights at all, you might get a little bit of leaf burn right on the edges where they touch the light. But as a general rule, they do really well directly underneath these lights. I rig these lights so that they come right off the edge of the Plano shelving unit, and I clamp them, as you kind of can see through here. I have a netting here because my cats like to get in this unit, so I actually strap up netting and always strap it down, keep the cats out. But as you can see, I just clamp it right here on the side, use zip ties to kind of hold them in position, and I kind of have it coming off the side and then aiming, you know, towards the plants, but not totally on top of them, more off the side, so it gives them more room to grow up. So anyway, there you have it. This is my homemade hydroponic cracky method grow unit for growing lettuces, and it also grows spinach in this setup as well. Happy gardening, everyone! Until next time, bye.